Siesta in Xbalba, and returned to the States for Karen Shields by Allen Ginsberg. 1. Late sun opening the book, blank page like light, invisible words unscrawled, impossible syntax of apocalypse, Uxmal, noble ruins, no construction. Let the mind fall down. One could pass valuable months, and years, perhaps a lifetime, doing nothing but lying in a hammock, reading prose with the white doves, copulating underneath, and monkeys barking in the interior of the mountain. And I have succumbed to this temptation. They go mad in the selva, the madman read, and laughed in his hammock. Eyes watching me, unease not of the jungle, the poor dear, can tire one, all that mud and all those bugs, ugh. Dreaming back, I saw an eternal Kodachrome, souvenir of a gathering, of souls at a party, crowded in an oval flash, cigarettes, suggestions, laughter in drunkenness, broken sweet conversation, acquaintance in the halls, faces posed together, stylized gestures, odd familiar visages and singular recognitions that registered indifferent greeting across time. Anson reading Horace with a rolling head, white-handed Hansbean camping gravely with an absent glance, bald Kingsland drinking out of a huge glass, dusty in a party dress, Durgan in white shoes, gesturing from a chair, Keck in a corner waiting for subterranean music, Helen Parker lifting her hands in surprise, all posturing in one frame, superficially gay or tragic as may be, illumined with the fatal character and intelligent actions of their lives. And I in a concrete room, above the abandoned labyrinth of Palanque, measuring my fate, wandering solitary in the wild, blinking single-minded at a bleak idea, until exhausted with its action and contemplation, my soul might shatter at one primal moment's sensation of the vast movement of divinity. As I leaned against a tree, inside the forest, expiring of self-begotten love, I looked up at the stars absently, as if looking for something else in the blue night, through the boughs, and for a moment saw myself leaning against a tree. Back there, the noise of a great party in the apartments of New York, half-created paintings on the walls, fame, cock-sucking and tears, money and arguments of great affairs, the culture of my generation. My own crude night imaginings, my own crude soul notes taken down in moments of isolation, dreams, piercing sequences of nocturnal thought, and primitive illuminations. Uncanny feeling, the white cat, sleeping on the table, will open its eyes in a moment and be looking at me. One might sit in this Chiapas, recording the apparitions in the field, visible from a hammock, looking out across the shadow of the pasture in all the semblance of eternity. A dwarfed thatch roof down in the grass in a hollow slope, under the tall crowd of vegetation waiting at the wild edge. The long shade of the mountain beyond in the near distance, its individual hairline of trees traced fine and dark along the ridge, against the transparent skylight, rifts and holes in the blue air, an amber brightening of clouds disappearing down the other side into the south. Palms with lethargic feelers rattling in presage of rain, shifting their fronds in the direction of the balmy wind. Monstrous animals sprayed up out of the ground, settling and unsettling as in water. And later in the night, a moment of premonition, when the plenilunar, cloud-filled sky is still and small. So spent a night with drug and hammock at Chichen Itza on the castle. I can see the moon moving over the edge of the night forest and follow its destination through the clear dimensions of the sky from end to end of the dark circular horizon. High, dim stone portals, entablatures of illegible scripture, bas-reliefs of unknown perceptions, and now the flicker of my lamp and smell of kerosene on dust-strewn floor where ant wends its nightly ritual way toward great faces worn down by rain. In front of me, a death's head, 1,000 years old, and have seen cocks 1,000 old, grown over with moss and bat shit stuck out of the wall, in a dripping vaulted house of rock, but death's heads here on portal still and thinks its way through centuries the thought of the same night in which I sit in scully meditation, sat in many times before by artisan other than me, until his image of ghostly change appeared unalterable, but now his fine thoughts vaguer than my dream of him, and only the crude skull figurement's gaunt, insensible glare is left, with broken plumes of sensation, headdresses of indecipherable intellect, scattered in the madness of oblivion. To holes and notes of elemental stone, blind face of animal transcendency, over the sacred ruin of the world, dissolving into the sunless wall of a blackened room on a time-rude pyramid rebuilt in the bleak flat night of Yucatan, where I come with my own mad mind to study alien hieroglyphs of eternity. A creak in the rooms scared me. Some sort of bird, vampire, or swallow flees with little paper wing flap around the summit in its own air, unconcerned with the great stone tree I perch on. Continual metallic whir of cicaras, then lesser chirps. Of cricket, 5 blasts of the leg whistle, the creak of an opening door in the forest, some sort of weird bird song or reptile croak. My hat woven with henequen on the stone floor, as a leaf on the waters, as perishable. My candle wavers continuously and will go out. Pale Uxmal, unhistoric, like a dream, Tullum shimmering on the coast in ruins, Chichen Itza naked, constructed on a plain, palanque, broken chapels in the green, basement of a mount, lone Kaaba by the highway, Pedris Negras buried again by dark archaeologists, Yaxchilan resurrected in the wild, and all the limbo of Xbalba still unknown. Floors under roof comb of branch, foundation to ornament, tumbled to the flowers, pyramids and stairways raced with vine, limestone corbels. Down in the river of trees, pillars and corridors sunken under the flood of years. Time's slow wall overtopping all that firmament of mind, as if a shining waterfall of leaves and rain were built down solid from the endless sky, through which no thought can pass, a great red, fat rooster, mounted on a tree stump in the green afternoon, the ego of the very fields screams in the holy sunlight, was looking back with eyes shut to where they crawled like ants on brown old temples, building their minute ruins and disappearing into the wild, leaving many mysteries of deathly volition to be divined. I alone know the great crystal door to the house of night, a legend of centuries, I and a few Indians. And had I mules and money, I could find the cave of amber and the cave of gold, rumored of the cliffs of Tambala. I found the face of one of the 9 guardians of the night, hidden in a mahogany hut in the area of lost souls, first relic of kind for that place, and I found as well a green leaf shaped like a human heart. But to whom shall I send this anachronistic valentine? Yet these ruins so much woke me to nostalgia for the classic stations of the earth, the ancient continent I have not seen, and the few years of memory left before the ultimate night of war. As if these ruins were not enough, as if man could go no further before heaven till he exhausted the physical round of his own mortality in the obscure cities hidden in the aging world. The few actual ecstatic, conscious souls certain to be found, familiars, returning after years to my own scene, transfigured, to hurry change, to hurry the years, bring me to my fate. So I dream nightly of an embarkation, captains, iron passageways, cabin lights, Brooklyn across the waters, the great dull boat, visitors, farewells, the blurred vast sea, one trip a lifetime's loss or gain. As Europe is my own imagination, many shall see her, many shall not, though it's only the old familiar world and not some abstract mystical dream. And in a moment of provisioning sleep, I see that continent in rain, black streets, old night, a fading monument, and a long journey unaccomplished, yet on antique seas, rolling in gray barren dunes under the world's waste of light, toward ports of childish geography, the rusty ship will harbor in. What nights might I not see, penniless among the Arab, mysteries of dirty towns around the kasbahs of the docks, clay paths, mud walls, the smell of green cigarettes, creosote, and rank salt water, dark structures overhead, shapes of machinery and facade of hull, and a bar lamp burning in the wooden shack across from the dim mountain of sulfur on the pier. Toward what city will I travel? What wild houses do I go to occupy? What vagrant rooms and streets and lights in the long night urge my expectation? What genius of sensation in ancient halls? What jazz beyond jazz in future blue saloons? What love in the cafes of God? I thought 5 years ago, sitting in my apartment, my eyes were open for an hour, seeing in dreadful ecstasy the motionless buildings of New York rotting under the tides of heaven. There is a God dying in America. Already created in the imagination of men, made palpable for adoration, there is an inner, anterior image of divinity beckoning me out to pilgrimage. O future, unimaginable God. 2. Jump in time to the immediate future, another poem. Return to the old land, penniless and with a disconnected manuscript, the recollection of a few sensations beginning, log boat down Rio Michol, under plantain and drifting trees to the railroad. Darkness on the sea, looking toward the stations of the classic world. Another image descending in white mist down the lunar highway at dawn above. Lake Catemaco. On the bus, it woke me up. The faraway likeness of a heavenly file, of female saints, stepping upward on miniature arches of a gold stairway into the starry sky. The thousands of little saintesses in blue hoods looking out at me and beckoning salvation. It's true, simple as in the image. Then the mummies in their pantheon at Guanajuato, a city of Cortesian mines in the first crevasse of the Sierras where I rested, for I longed to see their faces before I left. These weren't mythical rock images, those limestone effigies out of the grave remains of the fatal character. Newly resurrected, grasping their bodies, with stiff arms in soiled funeral clothes, twisted knock-kneed like burning, screaming lawyers. What hallucinations of the nerves! Indecipherable sext. One death man had raised up his arms to cover his eyes, significant timeless reflex in sepulchre. Apparitions of immortality consumed inward, waiting open-mouthed in the fireless darkness, nearby stacked symmetrically, a skull-bone wall ending, the whitewashed corridor under the graveyard, foetid smell reminiscent of sperm and drunkenness, the skulls empty and fragile, numerous as shells, so much life passed through this town. The problem is isolation, there in the grave or here in oblivion of light. Of eternity we have a numbered score of years and fewer tender moments, one moment of tenderness and a year of intelligence and nerves, one moment of pure bodily tenderness. I could dismiss Alan with grim pleasure. Reminder: I knelt in my room on the patio at San Miguel, at the keyhole, 2 a.m. The old woman lit a candle. 2 young men and their girls waited before the portal. News from the street. She changed the linen, smiling. What joy! The nakedness. They dance, they talk, and simper before the door. They lean on a leg, hand on a hip, and posture nudity in their hearts. They clap a hand to head and whirl and enter, pushing each other, happily, happily, to a moment of love. What solitude I've finally inherited. Afterward, 15 hours on rubbled single lane, broken bus, rocking along the maws and continual crags of mountain afternoon, the distant valleys fading, regnant peaks beyond, to days on the Pacific where I bathed, then riding fitful, gazing, sleeping through the desert, beside a wetback, sad-faced old man, youth exhausted to Mexicali. To stand near one night's dark shack on the garbage cliffs of border town overhanging the tin house poor man's village below. A last night's time-racked brooding and farewell, the end of a trip. Returning, armed with New Testament, critic of horse and mule, tanned and bearded, satisfying Whitman, concerned with a few traditions, metrical, mystical, manly, and certain characteristic flaws. Enough. The nation over the border grinds its arms and dreams of war. I see the fiery blue clash of metal wheels clanking in the industries of night and detonation of infernal bombs. And the silent downtown of the States in watery dusk submersion.